Melissa will do a roll call. Capital income and expense. Mike.
Okay, want me to just jump right in? Okay, all right.
Yes, I think so.
So Alyssa reached out to me, oh gosh, a few weeks back and had reported to me that there had been an error in the city's software system for sewer rates, leading to a much reduced level of revenue. And, asking if I could come at some point and talk about, what options do we have? What should we think about to try and correct that situation? So of the council here, I know the mayor and Jesse, you've seen this model before. Have you seen this before too? Okay, both of you? Okay. All right, so basically, I'll just go down to the project columns and you'll see they're pretty much empty. I have two of them. The water tower, last time we talked about this, we just put that project on hold. And so really the only project was the wastewater project next year. And so I have that plugged in, the model's taking that into account. I have no utility rate increases in here for next year right now, because I just want to show you where we're headed. Nothing else is new in here. I've got your preliminary levy for 2025 built in. So let's just go through the graphs. And here's our tax rate page. And to remind council, the yellow portion is the part of your tax rate associated with debt. And the green is basically everything else. So we're pretty much actual through here, and then we're projected going into the future. The reason the green stays fairly flat into the future, just remind council, is that I have the model assuming that you're going to try and control your operational spending increases to not increase faster than which your tax base is growing. And you see we've had a mixed bag in terms of that actual result in the past, but just to illustrate, if you were to outspend your tax base growth, you can see how the tax rate would spike, okay? And the reason that's important is because as we're waiting for debt to go offline, that creates capacity for new projects. So that's why it's important to keep an eye on the operational spending. All right, water bill is a two-part graph. The upper graph is the projected water reserves in the water fund, and the green part down below represents a bill on a 5,000 gallon user. So you can see we've been increasing water rates over the years to about $45, now $44 to be exact. A 5,000 gallon user, just to give you an idea, that's a pretty healthy usage of water. I mean, that's 4 people showering and doing laundry and that kind of stuff. So if you're mom and a dad and kids are moved away, you'd be less than this. Just as anecdotally, the average water bill around here for a 5,000 users probably $30, maybe $35. So it's a little high, but nothing alarming. You'll see the water reserves dipping down here in 2024. That was because of, not sure what that spending was, but it was a capital outlay.
Probably our tower project.
Yeah, okay. And then you see it's projecting pretty much level going forward, but you see eventually the increasing operational costs in the background catch up, and then it starts to bleed. Okay, so here's the one that's the alarming one, the sewer fund. So we've been struggling for a number of years in the sewer fund, as you can see. And in 2023, going into 24, due to the error, you can see it's dropping down there quite a bit. I'll hover, if it can give me a number. Hover. Oh, don't be so picky. Well, if I just draw a line over here, I mean, it could be $300,000-$400,000. Why won't it catch it? Oh, I just had it. There we go. $320,000. Now, is it going to be $320,000 in the hole? I don't know. We'll find out. Alyssa was good enough to send me her year-to-date revenue expenditure reports, and we weren't there yet, but we were getting there. And the reports were only good through September, I think. So I had 3 more months. So what I want you to take away from this is it's going to be a big number. Whether it's 320, whether it's 250, it's going to be a big number. And then you can see it's worse. Now, this does include that wastewater project that I had on the first page. It has that as well. Electric utility, same thing. Here's your 600 kilowatt hour a month user. And reserves look good, but again, as operational costs continue to go up, if we don't do rate increases, it'll slowly kill. Here's our debt per capita. So our wastewater project next year will throw us just a bit over 5,000, which puts us in the high level of debt, but not alarming because you're so quickly back out of it, right? It's only a year. And if you recall, the last time we did a project, we did a rated project. And the concern was what rating we were getting. We got the A+. And part of the reason we got the A+ was pretty good cash reserves in general fund and management of this. So we can, I think if we do rated debt again in the future, we can talk our way around that. Just having one.
No, so why is there debt there? So the debt starts next year?
Well, let me go down. You can't quite see the years underneath here. View, zoom to selection. So this would be in 2025 if you issued debt for that wastewater project. That's that red. And so I'm taking.
Oh, this is still wastewater.
This is all debt.
Oh,
This is all debt of the
debt.
city.
Okay.
And the green is debt you've already issued and are paying on, and then the red would be next year's debt. And then here's your capital project fund. This is the one where you're paying for, certain vehicles. There's a project listing and a spending plan that the city's used in the past. It's got a spreadsheet, and I don't know, Jerome, do you remember how many? There's like 15 different things that are on there. And we've got transfers. You're putting $25,000 in there from the general fund, the electric fund's sending some money in there. I think ambulance might be putting some money in there too. I can't recall. But point being, this capital project fund you see going up and down. I don't show you all the spending that's coming from, I just put that in the background because it's too much detail for something like this. That worksheet probably at some point should be updated. So when you're more acclimated and feel more comfy in your job, maybe sit down and go through that, because I think Sam might have revised it slightly when she was here, but I don't think it's had the full since Jerome's been here. So, it could use some significant updating. Okay, cost impact. So all this graph, all this shows is how much money is coming out of this particular house's pocket compared to years before. So if I took the house in 2017, and in 2017 that house was at $125,000, and in 2018 and 20 it was jacked up 10%, 15% in 23, 8%, 24, another 6%, 25. But in all other years it's going up 3%. And why these percentages? I just went on the Fillmore County website and saw what some of the houses were getting hit and took an average. So if you were to go look at this page, basically it's saying in 2025, what's that? It's probably around that $80 mark. It's about $80 more per month between taxes, sewer and water and electric bills than it was in 2017. Or you can compare it year to year, 25 to 24, it's just a little bit more per month. And then if we take the total bills, taxes, sewer, water, electric, of this hypothetical home that's increasing in value, uses 5,000 gallons of water a month and 600 kilowatt hours. If all those costs were increased 3%, it would track with this line. And you can see we've been tracking with that line. That's been a line we've been using as a threshold for sizing and scoping projects for a while. So that's pretty good. Okay, but the real crux of the matter is going to be this one. But let's work around the edges first. Let's go to these rate increases. Let's just do a 2% increase in water rates starting next year. And you can see if you do 2% every year, and that's the 2% rate increase on base rate, 2% increase on volume rate. It's not just 2% on one or the other, it's a 2% on all water rates. You can see that not only will we break even, but maybe we can start building some reserves. If you're not interested in building reserves, we could back off of that some. Let's go with 1. Let's just see what 1% does. You could do that and you'd be good in the short term. In the longer term, it may not be quite enough. So how about I split the difference and just go 1.5?
Are you saying that's a total of 1, not 1% on top of our hoped for 3% increase?
Did you already plan it?
No,
No,
I
we
don't
haven't
think
done
we did.
anything with next
Okay.
year's rates.
Right, so it would be taking your existing rates as they are right now and
Going to
1.5% more. And then,
Okay.
and then the year after, you would increase those rates 1.5. So it does kind of compound.
Yeah.
But then you can see it's a little more flat. So maybe we'll go with 1.5. With electric, you could wait. I mean, you could wait till everything starts dipping, but it always seems to me if you do that, you fall behind quicker than what you catch back up. Before you were in Lake City, Jerome, they had millions of dollars in their electric fund, and they weren't keeping up, and purchase power kept going up, but they weren't adjusting their rates, and their cash went like that, and then we spent 3-4 years rebuilding it. So let's go with electric here. Let's go 1.25. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually going to talk about that in a little more detail. So yeah, it's still not perfect, but you can see in the foreseeable future. And here's the thing. I'm using assumptions to drive these projections, right? I'm assuming how much your operational cost is going to go up. I'm assuming a very small level of growth in the city. Things can happen. You could lose a major user. You could gain a major user. People might all of a sudden decide to start conserving water that we didn't foresee. So when I put you these rates, you should keep your eye on the performance of your utility fund every year. You don't necessarily have to be a full-blown study like this, but just take a look. Where did we start with cash? Where did we end with cash? Are we keeping up? Okay, so now we've got the big kahuna here, the sewer bill. And if you were to say, well, we'll just have to raise rates to deal with that. I haven't even done this, so I'm going to do this on the fly. Okay, that gets it done. Okay, this is one strategy where you would do a sizable increase in rates. That's $18 a month on this hypothetical home, and then goes up a little bit every year. You see it doesn't come right out. I mean, we slowly fight our way out of the negative, right? And in the meantime, who knows what else might come up. So an alternative strategy would be do smaller increases than what I've got in here now and move some cash into the sewer fund, not as a loan. Take money from a positive fund, put it in the sewer fund, and gift it over there. Now, one fund that's healthy that could do this, but I would advise against it, is the electric fund. Electric fund could easily move money over there, but to Jerome's point, if you ever needed to borrow money for the electric utility, it carries a separate rating from the city's general, the stuff we did with the roads that has a general obligation bond. Electric utilities don't have general obligation bonds. It's just a revenue bond. And so if you get a rating, they really look at your cash because you don't have the taxing power behind it. So without that taxing power, they're like the people that lend you the money say, I want to see a bunch of cash sitting in your pocket so that I know I'm going to get repaid. So if we take all that money out of the electric fund and then 2 years from now, you tell me you want to borrow money for an electric project, that's a problem. Another fund that's pretty healthy, you have over a year's worth of reserves, at least you did at the end of 23, is the general fund. General fund could probably do it, but I don't advise that either. We got an A+ rating when we went to market a year ago. And part of the reason is because the general fund had over a year's worth of reserves.
I have a question, Mike.
Yes,
So with the electric fund, I thought there were some restrictions or limits to how we could take money out of there for other funds.
Auditors will tell you that electric pays for electric and water pays for water, and sewer pays for sewer, and general pays for, tax supported governmental activities like snow plowing and police protection. And in a perfect world, that's what would happen. In the real world, that never happens.
Okay.
That never happens. You folks are the sole authority. You could vote right now to move money from the electric fund to the capital project fund as a gift, and it's over.
Because when I was looking at things when this first came up, it looked to me like 10% out of the electric fund would full up the loss of revenue from the sewer.
On a one-time basis
Billing.
or like 10%
One-
a year?
No, one time.
Yeah, that'd only be about $100,000.
So what, were you,
See, we only had 60,000 loss in revenue, wasn't it? From the sewer fund only lost, or I shouldn't say lost, it didn't collect they would have collected about 60 more.
Yep, but unfortunately, when I got the cash balances from staff at the end of September, the sewer fund was 200 and something thousand in the hole, if I recall. It was a big number. It was more than 60,000. Yeah, and it was starting off,
I was
you
gonna say,
know,
it should have been.
it was hovering right around
Yep.
that zero, a little bit negative. So, another fund that would be a good candidate to move into there. And this is one where if you took the cash out of there, it wouldn't have any bearing on any ratings because your capital project fund is expected to go up and down. That's the whole purpose of a capital project fund. General fund is an operational fund. The electric fund, for the most part, is an operational fund. Capital project fund is put money away, spend it, put money away, spend it. So if it does this, so if I go to that capital project fund, and you can see we've got at the low point here, 300 and some $1,000. So what I came up with, and you can disagree with this and we'll do whatever you want. I said, let's do smaller rate increases in the sewer. Let's do a one-time transfer from the capital project fund to the sewer fund. Now I'm plugging in 320,000. I wouldn't suggest you do this transfer today. I wouldn't suggest you do it in the next week. What I would suggest is you wait to see where you are at the end of the year. My number could be completely off to your point. Maybe somehow it's going to be 60,000. Well, then we only have to transfer 60,000.
Mhm.
But when you're going through the audit process this year, you could work with the auditor and say, whatever's negative there, we're gonna zero it out with a capital project fund transfer, one-time gift.
To get that fund to zero is what you're saying.
The sewer fund, let's get it to zero and start fresh.
Okay.
And then with a 10% increase in 25, followed by 2% a year thereafter. Now you can see where we're at. Now, the only thing is the capital project fund does go about 50,000 in the hole down here. So what this means is if we really had to move that much, when we get out into 2028 or something, we might have to delay a purchase or two out of that fund. And then here's our cost impact. So we do go above that line here, we're spiking because if you were to draw a line from this year up to that year, that's a lot steeper than 3%. But at least long-term. So I'll just flip through these all again. So the only thing that I've got your regular spending, nothing crazy new other than, and I'm hoping this cost estimate is still in that realm of 1.3 million.
That's what they're saying. We obviously don't know.
Okay. So then here's the tax rate. Now, why is 26 going up? Was this the one where we reduced a debt levy for some cash on hand? Am I conflating you with a different city? Hold on.
That levy was a less amount than what you had
Oh, it's
talked
this
to me
one.
about.
It was this one. Yep. What happened here is in your preliminary budget, someone grabbed the actual payments in 2025, and that was the levy that they put into the 2025 budget to cover that payment. The problem is the way these bonds work is your big principal payment is on February 1st, right? There's no revenue collected in January. So you have to collect your revenue. So the February 1st, 2026 payment, which is a big number, you have to collect the revenue in 25. So this 51, you see the number should be closer to that. And so we can't get away with that again. And so you're going to have to build that back in. I knew there was a reason why this happened. So it's just, and I did show this to Alyssa so that when she's working on a budget for next next year for the following year. And we'll look at them again together, show her how to read those bond transcripts to know, because there is a column that shows you the levies you're supposed to do.
What did we do in
So,
2023?
okay, water bill, that was at 1.5% rate increase. There's the sewer with a 10% followed by 1.25% in the electric. This doesn't change. So that was the solution that I came up with. That's just me drinking coffee in my office at home. But however you want to deal with it, I'm happy to make changes.
What is it gonna do to this when I add a water tower in 34?
How much?
4 to 5,
What year?
probably 34. It's gonna be 100 years old.
Could you go to 35 or 36?
All we can do it.
Because I'll be retired.
Oh,
Me too.
Right, then you guys don't have to worry about it.
All right, let's.
Yeah, I think it's a little tough on the current city population to start paying for things 10 years in the future now.
And we're not paying for it now.
No, but
Projections are gonna be-
let's go 2034. Okay, there's your 4 million, right? And I don't know if we can do PFA funding on water towers. They're tough. Well, if we put that all on water rates, and with water, sewer, you can pledge taxes or sewer revenues. Water, you're supposed to pledge water revenues, and you see how fast that cash goes away. Now, what you hate to do, Mayor, is to wait until 34 and do a gargantuan rate increase. It might be better to ramp it up over time, but it might take significant. See, that's not even cutting it.
Well, you could imagine if you never had planned for a water tower, or the water tower just fell down, we had to replace it, we'd have to deal with it.
Actually, if it fell down, that might be better. It might be insurance eligible.
Well, it's gonna be 100 years old. pretty soon, so-
Yeah. I don't know how much they'd give us insurance.
So anyways, and then, we could probably bring some cash into it and reduce the borrowing. Nope, wrong one. Yeah, that's too much. Something like that. But in order for that to happen, we're talking about 6% a year on water rates, starting next year.
And that's to do what? To fund the payments on a bond?
You're right, to get to this
in
$4 million.
10 years later?
Yep,
Yeah, I'm assuming.
because otherwise, if that's, you're probably looking at if you wait, you're probably looking at a 50 or 60% increase that year.
Mhm.
And maybe that's what you want to do, is people save money now. I think we didn't have a good answer for this the last time we did it, and that's why I had it covered up,
I mean, we-
saying it was on hold.
Not Forget about it.
Yeah, right.
sure.
Unfortunately.
Has there been any funding looked, given the state of the sewer fund? Is there any, can't we go to the USDA or something?
We tried. When Chris was here, we looked at USDA,
Well, it's a
PFA.
different situation today than it was then.
I know.
It's a much different situation.
You mean in terms of being eligible for
Yeah.
financing?
Yeah.
Yeah, potentially, but I'm not sure they put a lot of stock into it helps your application in terms of reserves, but did you get denied based on reserves or were?
I know, like,
Yeah, the wastewater project, it's $300,000 in the hole, or $300,000 negative cash. I can't imagine they wouldn't say you could get a little sympathy to it.
they helped Lanesboro out on the bonding. But I think when Fountain had to put one in, I don't think they got a lot of help.
Well, I don't think
And
you
then it
get
didn't
a
work
grant.
either.
You're not talking about a grant. You're talking about just USDA long-term funding.
I think I would explore the grant, and then if not, you can always use the funding.
What's the household median income in,
That went up significantly, which changed our rating for that. I know that because
because they take 1.5% of that number to be it affordable.
yeah,
So,
we don't qualify for anything anymore
So
like
the
we used to.
median increase.
Yes.
yeah, that's true for most towns. I remember I was getting USDA calls a couple of years ago saying, hey, there's gonna be, at some point, they're gonna quit using the incomes from some census and then change it.
Yeah, the last census, I think,
Yeah.
that median income basically took us out of it.
Right.
Not by a lot, I don't think, but by,
And this one, what I'm thinking is, wouldn't it be great if we could do this as a PFA loan, but water towers are tough on. But you could probably do USDA funding. Now, on something like that, here's the thing, they can do, it's 40-year financing, but the first year is typically interest only. And then, the rate would be below market for something like that. It might even be closer to 4. I'm just plugging 4. Now I ought to be able to back off the rate some. Nope. Well, what if I took that cash out? Close. Yeah, that's 5 or 6%. I mean, it's, yeah.
So that's 5% increase.
Every year.
Every year.
Starting next year.
and that's 5% on the rate plus.
The volume
base And the base rate.
Yep, base rate volume, your per thousand charge goes up 5%, your base charge goes up 5%, all of it. The only thing that wouldn't go up is you charge a Minnesota Department of Health. I think it's 81 cents a month or something like that. Like $9 a year per account.
The other thing that the sewer doesn't take into is what we might, and we don't know that until we actually do this project. There's a projection that we're supposed to save 80,000
Some money. Yep.
roughly
Oh, well,
in operating costs annually.
do we believe it though? Oh yeah, I've got it in here.
Yes.
I've got it in here. I got 51%. I've got 50,000 in savings.
Okay, and then that's fine for projection.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So of that payment, 51% would come from savings, and then the balance was coming from new sewer revenues. God, you got me excited there that we had.
Well, I just want to make sure that we did, because I think the last time we talked about this, we were projecting it without that saving.
Okay. What if
It
I,
doesn't have any other future projects on it, like the 2-year flood limits, correct?
that's, yeah, this is everything.
So
This doesn't have any-
there's no future street reconstruction projects in the facility.
Nope.
Or any water projects or sewer projects.
Nope.
Yikes.
Now, what I'm thinking is if you did have to do it, you might do it out here in 31. I'll just put in a placeholder. Rad Road. Hold on a second. Let me save this and get out of it. Every once in a while, I hit some key and it locks my.
I think you had your, up on the top, you have to enable your content to make any changes.
No, it's not that. It's
not?
there's a key. See how it's like somehow it's locked on this, and I don't know what I hit.
Yeah, but I didn't think you could, yeah, unless
there.
you enable content.
I got rid of it. No,
Okay.
I did not.
On my Excel, if I don't enable the content, it doesn't let me make any changes to the.
Well, I've been doing it the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
and I can make changes. It's just that it's not letting me go cell by cell for some reason. It's like I've got to
Escape out.
just escape. I think. You smart.
Would that work?
Well, see here, it's not showing the enable content.
Yeah, I got rid of it. I
Okay.
deleted it. You know, as I get older, kids' technology just chooses not to, okay, 2031, I said. Yeah, it's too much. Cut that in half. So you can see the model inflates it, so now it's 1.47. All right, so there, so it keeps the tax rate flat. You see, and then you could do another one out here in 39, but did that change? Oh, it did a little bit. There you go. Yeah, and then here's this one out here in 39. So if you want me to plug something in just to account for something. Okay, what's going on? See, it did it again. Escape.
So if there'd be a TIF district in the next couple of years, would that change? This? Not really.
A TIF won't help us for years because it's captured, except for if the project was for a business that used a lot of water or a lot of electric, so they're a big time customer, then that'd be helpful. Well, that's okay. Why isn't your escape plan working now? Did it again. I think
User error.
I think this laptop has had it. Usually when I just restart it, it fixes it. I'll do this, enable content.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, it's still doing that. For the life of me, I'm absolutely flabbergasted. Okay. What did I say, 2039? 5% all on taxes. I'm gonna have to back off that one too. Yeah, it's close enough for government work. So you can see I'm just kind of taking advantage of when these yellows dip.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's kind of close.
That one-time transfer that you show, Mike,
Mm-hmm.
that's not being repaid, correct?
Correct. It's a gift.
So that would cause troubles if that money's been set aside for ambulances,
That's why
fire trucks.
yeah, I wonder about
So
if
I
we
had
did,
the projected spending in there through 2033 from that prior spreadsheet. That's why, that was my point. That needs to be updated.
But still, if you give the one-time gift, that money's not there when those things need to
Well,
be replaced.
No,
it would reduce them all by, if you took 10% out of there, it would reduce each one of them in the future by that much, which I think is,
Well, you can see the stuff going up and down here. So I've got the spending.
There's money in that fund for the ambulance.
Mhm.
Right, right. And I'm spending all that money. You can see it's going down.
I understand that.
So it's, now the question is the spending that was provided to me, is that out of date? That's the question. So, let's get to,
Probably, because
no,
I just
So-
don't like using the capital improvement funds because the individual departments have looked at it like, oh, we have this much money to do this project.
So look at these, see all these numbers? You don't see these anywhere. This is just the background worksheet. See all this spending? And I've
Mhm.
got notes over here like ambulance and whatever. So I mean, that's accounted for. I've got that spending accounted for.
So you're saying though, so even if we gift it,
Yeah.
there's still enough in the capital improvement
Well,
fund to do
no,
those.
because it goes 50,000 in the hole.
Okay.
temporarily. So either you'd have to delay some spending or
Mhm.
put more money in there, or
Yep.
whatever. And it may not be 320,000. Again, you wouldn't do it until you get through the audit process and see where the
Sure.
sewer fund really is.
Okay.
Maybe something,
In capital project,
Yeah.
at the end of 23, it was like 700. Or, wait a minute, 503. Wait, that's 24. Four,
Seal coatings, trucks, fire trucks, ambulances.
439,000 at the end of 23.
General fund operations.
There shouldn't be any operational spending out of there.
No, I'm talking general fund operations, so your court functions, your fire, your.
Yeah, that-
Streets, that.
That's all general fund, yeah. I mean, you got some seal coating in this.
well, so you have a squad listed there, which we don't pay for anymore.
Okay.
That's part of our contract with the sheriff's office.
Okay.
But it doesn't look like there's a lot of money going into there anymore either.
No, because I think, wow, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, the ambulance is putting money in. The 11,000, I think, is coming from electric. And then the city, the general taxes are doing 25,000 a year starting next year.
We have quite a bit
Change
that's
that.
been going in from gambling that's not on
Well,
there.
yeah, there's that.
I don't have any gambling money accounted for.
So I think we were doing closer to 80,000.
You were doing over 100,000 between all your sources before, but I think that got reduced to create levy capacity for the new debt project we did a year ago or earlier this year. Whichever one. I think that's why we reduced it.
Yeah, we talked about it. I don't remember what we did, what we talked about. I know we talked about not doing it like once and then bringing it back or something like that. And those numbers might,
Well, I'm not doing that here.
I know that.
Yeah.
I know that's another discussion, but
I mean, we're kind of tapped out here in my mind. And so, I mean, there may have to be some prioritization and giving up some stuff that maybe you didn't want to give up, but I mean, this is a typical chart for, up and down as you spend it and then you replace it. So, number one, will it be 320,000? We'll find out. And then number two is how accurate is my spending out of this fund? Garbage in, garbage out kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'm thinking right now, I think I would be in favor of tapping the electric fund for 10%, which doesn't really hurt it. It's generally going up every year. And then that would take care of a lot of the sewer.
So 10%
Yeah.
from electric and then to the extent needed, the balance from capital projects. So maybe it's less from capital projects.
Well, and like you say, wait, if we're desperate to reduce it more than capital projects, but my feeling is capital projects is the wrong place to go to.
well, I would agree with you if we're going to keep trying to replace things that need to be replaced,
What is the general fund reserve at from the audit from 20?
Off the top of my head, I don't know the numbers, but it was, I want to say it was like 800,000 in the unassigned compared to like 600 some thousand in general fund spending.
So yeah, at the last audit, he said we were about 50% above typical or normal or
Yep.
expected
Yep.
in the general fund.
But I'd still hate to touch it because it just looks so good.
Not all, well, yeah, not much of it at all should be touched.
And the other thing about the electric fund is, you could have I just remember Grand Meadow was out of power for like 11 days because of a really bad winter. You could have a lot of borrowing money for electric is tough and we avoid it when we can. Much easier to do general obligation debt for water and sewer and streets than it is electric.
If we go back, when we lost our big transformer at the substation, we were looking at, oh man, that could cost us 250 or 300,000 out of our electric fund, but we had We had 600,000 in there. So we could have swung it. But as it turned out, you know,
Insurance.
My Energy or Daryl, and I can't remember which one, had insurance for that because it's part of their
Sure.
operation too. So that reduced our outlay quite a bit.
Well, it matters not to me. If that's the route you prefer to go, that's something I'll have to, I guess, because what I normally do, Mayor, is at the end of these things, when we say, okay, that's kind of what we want to see, or how we want to see it, is I PDF this up and I send it to staff, and then they can distribute it so you can
Okay,
share it. So what I'll do is I will move 100,000 out of electric, and then the balance I'll take from here. But again, who knows what it is.
it's just your projection. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's sort of a blended approach
What was the sewer rates on that? We had it up on paper.
in terms of increases.
Yeah.
10% next year and then 2% a year.
So everything else is increased by less than 3% next year, except for sewer.
Well, it depends if you want to start hitting that water for that water tower project or not.
Well, and the other thing is we don't know what our actual electric projected rate is increased maybe.
Yeah, so for instance, I've got,
I know you've got a
I got a 2%,
assumption in there, yeah,
2% growth. And I think who do you buy your power from?
My Energy.
My Energy. What's My Energy? I know, for instance, like in, was it Preston? They were telling me that they were told that they weren't going to raise cost of power anytime real soon. So maybe I'm overstating this.
Well, they're a
They did
producer
raise
too. So
last year, but the meeting is this next week.
next week, they're going to tell us the good news.
Well,
The good or bad.
right.
So they're increased and they didn't increase power cost to us last year or this year. Actually, I think that we took a little bit of a reduction
Mhm.
in our cost to buy, and we left the electrical rate the same.
And you actually, right now, with just a 2% adjustment, I mean, if you didn't want to do something right away on electric, I mean, you got time. It's just that every year you delay, it means it's just more you have to do on the back end.
But you don't have that transfer plug in there yet, don't you?
No,
No,
no. So I've got to knock that down by 100 grand, or if you want to use 10%, yeah, about 100 grand. But the trajectory will be the same. It'll be flat. I mean, it'll go down by that 100 grand, but then it'll be flat and then curve back down.
So for the sewer, why would we do 10% now if we could do something like the water, like 5% for the next 3 years? 4% or however much.
Let's zoom in. You're really skating right along that zero. I mean, we could do that and then right about maybe out in here, you could back off that 5%. Now, if we backed off, it wouldn't go up that high. It's just that the model keeps doing it. I gotta hand program it to stop. But what I could do is I could have it stop. If you prefer this strategy, I could have it stop somewhere right out in here. So 32, right about in here. We either cut it off or slow it down. If you trust me to do that, I can do that.
In my mind, the 5% is making up for what people basically save for 6, 7 months. I mean, the bill was lower.
Mhm.
This is paying back that 7 months, 6 months, whatever. And then the 5% is just normal.
Mhm. Yeah, but I already spent all my savings.
Hopefully you had a good time when you did it.
Went to Florida.
So, you know, the only downside to that I see is that you can see how long we've been creeping around this zero. That's the only downside to it. But it might be more, palatable to your customers. Then if I slowed it down, like I said, I can do that by hand somewhere out here. Then this will drop back down closer to that line.
Mhm.
Do you like that strategy better?
It's less abrupt.
Okay.
But if it's a one-time thing and then that makes up for everything we've lost, maybe it's less for the customers in the long run.
So 5% is $3.50 on a 5,000 gallon user. 10% obviously would be about 10, or excuse me, 7.
Well, 10%'s not.
I think he's looking for his phone here to.
I heard something go wrong.
Oh, that's-
Oh, okay. It might have been me. I don't know. I'm getting old.
You had 10% on there originally.
I did.
You did 15, and then did less of an increase and stuck it out.
Well, I did 10 and 2. So you need a 15 and 1.5 or something like that. $11 a month.
Except no, we're lower, 25 months a month.
You know, it's funny, no, I guess no. Forget it. So what did you guys prefer?
I think we should, when we,
I think we really need to figure out, kind of wait till the end of the year, determine what that fund is short. And then,
That won't impact your rate increase though.
no, I realize that, but we also have to do both. I think
but
this
I
is gonna happen no matter what, and I think 10%, I mean, we just jacked them 15, the sewer rate just went 15 this last year.
Well, we're supposed to.
Supposed to, in
Right, yeah,
theory,
yeah.
I get that. And it was 4 months of loss.
It was 4 months. Yeah,
4 months, yep.
But we have to recover some of it, absolutely. Because we lost that. So,
Yeah, and I think whether we do 10% one time and then plan on 2% annual, or if we do 5 for a couple of years and then do 2, I'd like to get a good amount of it recouped next year. So maybe, I'm tending towards the 10% one time next year, but it depends on how we actually end up.
That's what I'm saying is where we end up determines really what we need to recoup going forward.
Well, no,
Somewhat.
because we're trying to get to zero, right? The transfer in, no matter what the number is, 320 or 100, any number, we know we're going to be negative at the end of the year. We know that.
Yep.
So whatever we transfer in, now we're starting fresh. So we're just going to assume we're starting from zero. So the question is, let me zero out the rate increases. Okay, so here we are, we're at zero, right?
Does our
Why is that going up?
projected income for next year, that is considering the rates or the correct rates we're at now?
Yes,
It
Yep.
does, okay.
something's odd to me here. Something's pulling that shouldn't be. Oh, there we go. Technology, right? Okay, so here we get to zero, right? With that one-time transfer, and you can see what's happening.
Mhm.
So now it's a matter of how soon do you want to see this line positive and gaining? So if we went just 2% a year, that's not obviously going to get it done, right? We can go 3. It's fine, but we're still kind of hovering in that negative region. Now we're getting close to that other strategy where we do this and we cut it off. We had 5% in there before. Not quite sure where to put this to make it easiest to see.
And this is at 5% annual?
I've got it at 4% now.
4,
That's,
okay.
Yeah.
okay.
But you see, what I don't like is this,
Where it
just
just sits.
sitting there.
Correct. I'm not saying not to do anything with a one-time difference.
Yep.
In that, I think it's more realistic to figure that out when we do next year's rate increase, after we determine how much we're gonna transfer and then start going the other direction. Whether it's 10% or it's 15% or it's 5% over 3 years, I mean,
When do you guys typically do those rate increases?
January.
Okay.
Which it might be good to, January, because that's when we've done them the last couple of years anyway.
So this is at the 10 and 2.
Yeah. Can you put in multiple years if we did like a 10 this year, 5 next year, and then 2? Or,
It would take me time to, yes, but I don't have it set up to do that. So
And you're right, Michael. I mean, we're looking at projections here, and that might be what we have to do throughout. You might have to raise it 10 and 5 and then 3, 2.
Then we can back
well, what
off.
would be
Yep.
interesting is raise it 10, and then towards the end of next year, are we doing better than what we thought?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or not enough? So instead of being 2, it might be 5 again.
Right.
And 2% may just not be reasonable anymore considering inflation and just the cost of running things. Maybe it's going to have to be 3% a year on everything.
Correct. For your intents and purposes, Mike, what I would say, let's stick to that 10%.
Okay.
At least in my mind. I don't know how everybody else feels, but so we can show that projection. Again, it doesn't mean that that's what we necessarily have to do.
Mhm.
Take a look at it when we know what our final
Yep.
loss is. Or not loss, but uncollected income.
So do we decide that like in December already?
Our
I mean-
transfer,
Yeah.
our transfer's gonna have to wait until we know what our actual fund balance negative is, I think is what Mike's saying.
Yeah. And the problem is if you wait for your audit to determine that number, it could be May.
May,
It could technically.
May or
yeah.
June.
But my point is, I don't think the size of the transfer should impact your decision on rates because
No.
you're starting to zero. Whether it's 300,000 or 100,000, you start from zero after the transfer.
I guess that that is my point too, with the rate increase. If you guys typically do it in January, if
We're
we're,
gonna lose a month.
yeah, well, that or if we make that rate increase in January, like we, you know, instead of waiting until we get the audit.
I think the only thing that waits till the audit is the transfer,
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I would agree with
but
that.
I would tell you to do the rate increase. as
Starting
soon
in
as they run
January.
it.
And you said it with the 10% increase, I just want to make sure on an average household, what does that bill look like
No,
then?
this is just the sewer bill on a 5,000 gallon user at $7.
$7 increase in their bill on the sewer part of it.
Yep, so if they
Okay.
use 3,500 gallons, it's gonna be less than that.
It's based on usage.
And then do you want me to account for that water tower with these 5% a year increases, or do you want?
No,
I think we don't worry about that right now.
Okay, so when I print
Maybe
this up,
next year, right?
show this as a 0, and then I'm just gonna go to 1.5 on the water then. Do you want me to keep these 2 placeholders for road projects in there? Just kind of,
That's only $1 million.
1.4 million and 31 and 2 million and 39.
Yeah. Too much for that.
Oh,
No, you're right.
You can do the parking lot. out here.
Yeah.
You're right.
Mhm.
I mean, we gotta keep something in there. We're not gonna do, we gotta keep doing the roads
I
and
mean, $1 million project in 34 is not gonna go very far.
that's something.
Well, that's in 31 and it's a
Something
million
like
four.
we done this year.
Either one.
That was only 100.
Well, that's 100.
A little over 100.
and so what does
The
that
whole
figure,
project.
if it's a $1.4 million project,
Mhm.
that accounts for the amount we're assessing, and then it's the
Yeah, but I haven't
cost,
fully-
the cost of the bond,
Right,
payment, repayment.
I have it 100% on taxes. I don't have any assessment revenue coming in. So if we were to assess, 10, 20%, I can increase the size of this bond.
Yeah. I think, and I'm not quite sure how that works. If you put assessment in for 20, because we assess 40%, but if we look at the total project, we get close to 28 or 30% of the total project
Well, let's do
because
20.
a bunch of it, we cover 100%
Now that means I can,
sewer and water.
sewer and water probably won't be able to contribute to these because we're between that water tower and the wastewater project, you're kind of tapped out. So it's all gonna be taxes and assessment, but we ought to be able to increase this by. Pretty close. I'll be able to do this one for. Kind of close. So that shouldn't change all that much. So the reason that works is because 20% of the bond payment's covered with assessment revenue.
Okay.
So now we have a 2.1 million and a 3.1 million project. So if you have something you want to do 2-3 million in 2 years,
Well, what
forget that line.
are you thinking, Brian, on road project? Don't we need another one of these 1.5 millions
No, I
in
think-
3 or 4 years?
Consensus was if we're doing the UV, that the next road project would get pushed to probably 2 years. But depending on Main Street issues and what else comes up, obviously there's streets in town that aren't perfect.
Now I am showing 31 and I can play some games. So if you want to do it a year or two earlier than that, I could set the bond up to be interest only for 2 years and then have the principal kick in. I don't like doing that because it's inefficient. It adds over to the overall interest expense over the life, but in terms of being able to do something and,
Once the next payments come off, the next bonds come.
well, for tax supported stuff, we're going to see a drop in 27 to 28. And so you'd think, okay, we could do something in 27.
Mm-hmm.
But these are kind of inflated due to that missed levy that I discussed earlier. And so I'm looking more long-term. But also what I'm doing is I'm looking at that. So I'm kind of looking at all these things in terms of,
Mhm.
keeping something, let's keep that debt below 5,000 per capita if we can. Let's try and keep, if we can track with that 3% line, that's better. Sometimes you just can't do it. I mean, I've got cities that are going over 5% regularly now.
So now that we have that bond rating, if we want to do another project in 3-4 years, does that bond rating stay the same or they just up?
They check you every time. So for instance, next year, we might do it again. At 1.3 million, it's probably going to be worth getting that rating again.
Mhm.
But one of the things we can do is, since that's sewer related, we could get the state's credit enhancement on top of that. So not only would it be the A+ rating, assuming they still say you're as good as you were,
Okay.
you got the AAA behind it.
Mm,
It
Okay.
won't trade like a AAA, but it'll trade more like a AA.
Mhm.
Now, I doubt you'll ever go higher than A+ just because of the size of the community. There's just nothing you can do about
Sure.
it. But if they ever said, we're going to turn you to an A, that looks bad in the paper, but in terms of your borrowing rate, it's probably 5 to 10 basis points. It doesn't make it. The difference is rated versus non-rated. That's the benefit.
Mhm.
Okay, so ignore the water tower, but do you want me to leave something in here for the roads?
Yes.
It doesn't mean you're gonna do it, it's just accounting for something, that's all.
Yeah, no, I
think
like,
so.
That's pretty good there. Tax rates. The water I had at 1.5%, sewer's at 10, and then 2 thereafter. The electric I did 1.25, but maybe you'll know more when you have your meeting.
We will.
And so, make a decision on that later. So is this what you're looking for?
Yep.
There's no good answers here, but.
Absolutely.
All right, well, I will clean this up to show the electric doing a 10% contribution and reduce, that'll make this look better so it doesn't go negative at least.
okay.
Um,
And then once we do it, Mike, we'll just let you know what we did so you can keep everything.
It won't matter until I come back. Because when you ask me back, then I bug staff for about 10, 15 different things, and then I update all the background worksheets based on that, so.
Well, good. Thank you.
All right,
Thanks.
All right, we got a lot to think about.
We do.
And then
Just to get, if nothing else. just-
for next meeting, you can have the different fund balances. I'm not sure if you put that in the last agenda.
Okay.
Can't remember looking at that.
So if we could meet sometime in the next.
you didn't have that cash balance report.
The first week of December.
Yes, I do. Pretty sure I do. Let's see here.
So we.
Yep,
could
I
set
do.
it
This is
in
from,
December,
I ran it on November
at least the sewer
6th.
rate, So that we could.
So, yep.
Is that the one I had, or did I have
I'm
an early